Is the screen visible?
Yeah, it's full screen. It's very
All
good.
right. All
You
right.
can start.
Yeah. Thank you. So as suggested by Dr. William Liu and the Ideas Conference Committee, I'll be presenting on transforming e-governance through data science. And I'm a research and data analytics professional from India, working in the area of e-governance and using multiple data science techniques to optimize and to suggest new applications which are being used by different governments. And the idea is that we should help the public sector to emerge as an efficient sector and can transform the way governance is being received by various kind of citizens all around the world through the applications under e-governance. So I'm thankful to the Ideas Forum, the Ideas community, which allowed me to present this topic in front of all of you. So this is the major agenda that I would be covering today. So I'll be talking about the background of e-governance just in order to make you all understand that what all it covers and why it is used and what are the financial implications that are associated with it. I would be talking about few data science techniques that are prominently used in this area. They are primarily described under prescriptive and predictive analytics. So I would only be talking about the technique names and the overview of the techniques rather than going into in-depth analysis of all those techniques. Then I would be talking about applications of data science for e-governance, which is the core theme of this webinar. And I would be discussing few applications where the data science techniques are used prominently and few research cases where it can be used. And I've personally worked through my PhD and I presented the analysis of those techniques through the application under e-governance. I'll also be talking about a certain key pointers which can be useful for further directions in future for researchers, for academicians, for practitioners, for administrators, those who want to work in this area, that what are the key areas that can be fruitful for all of you and which can be useful in the area of e-governance. And at the end, we can take up Q&A. So we'll start with the background of e-governance. You must have heard of government services. You must have accessed government services in whatever region you are. You must have interacted with government in whatever region you are. Government plays an important role in every citizen's life. And government needs to interact with its citizens. Government need to provide services to its citizens. And when that is done with the help of information and communication technology, or that is done in a digital way, then the process is known as e-governance. Or as said by UNESCO, e-governance refers to the public sector's use of information and communication technologies with the aim of improving information and service delivery, encouraging citizen participation in the decision-making process, and making government more accountable, transparent, and effective. So that is the whole idea behind e-governance. This definition sums up all the aspects that are there behind the working of e-governance. So whenever a citizen is interacting with government or government is interacting with other entities, and that happens with the help of digitalization, then we say that that's a e-governance process. Now, there are four major pillars associated with e-governance. When we talk about the complete e-governance as a process, there are a lot of processes, sub-processes that are involved within that concept. There are a lot of people who are associated within this concept, which are interacting with each other. There are certain entities which are interacting, and there are a lot of people involved behind those entities. Then we have a technology platform which plays an important role in delivering the e-governance services amongst various entities, and that's where the platform, the tools, the techniques plays an important role. And finally, the resources, the information that is there, the data sets that are there, the flow of network that is there. So all of these things forms the pillars of e-governance, and without these four pillars, e-governance would not be able to survive. Now, talking about the interactions, as you can see on the right side, that there are various business entities, citizen entities that needs to interact with government. So there are different models that are there under e-governance. When we say that the government is interacting with citizens, then we say that this is a G2C model where government to citizen services are provided or communication takes place. Similarly, government can connect with its own employees, government can connect with businesses, government can connect with various organizations which can be independent in nature, government can connect with other governments, maybe its own offices or maybe government of some other region, and it can also connect with educational institutions for the purpose of citizen engagement, for the purpose of capacity building, for the purpose of education and training, for the purpose of sensitization regarding the services. So these are the few models through which government basically interacts with different kind of entities. And the entities here we are talking about is citizen, business, employee, governments, organization, and educational institutions. So this way, e-governance process is involved under various models. And that is what we need to understand, that with respect to different models, we can have different use cases. Now, some prominent examples with respect to e-governance, you must all be filing online income tax. So when you are filing income tax with the government institution or any of the organization that is designed to take taxes, then filing it online is an e-governance process. Similarly, you must be accessing health insurance and other health related services from the government. Then that's also, if you are doing it through digitalization or you are using a technology platform for doing that, then that's a e-governance. If you don't have to visit any particular office of the government, then you are accessing the services through some technology platform, and that is what is comprised under e-governance. Also, you can register your company, your organization, or any other entity through which you are carrying out profitable or non-profitable works. Then if that is being done with the help of technology, then yes, that's also e-governance. So likewise, there are many other examples in different part of the world with respect to different use cases, with respect to different services, that you can have such kind of technology usage for interacting with government. So these are prominently examples of G2C and G2B models that I have shown in the slide. Now let me explain that why e-governance is very important and very useful in today's context. Now, every citizen, every business house, every organization is aware, and it's the age where every information is available in open domain. There's nothing that is hidden. So whatever processes the government organizations or the government sector is carrying out, that gets open in the public very soon. So it's not something like that we can hide the government processes or we can hide something from the citizens, and that is where transparency comes into picture. So with the help of electronic governance, if every process has been digitized, if everything that the government offers has been used with respect to technology, is delivered with respect to technology, then that improves the transparency of the whole process. That enhances accountability of the whole process, where every organization member who is behind the delivery of those services is held accountable for delivering good quality services. So now government officials cannot deny that this thing has not been done by them. So whatever processes they are delivering to the citizens, whatever processes they are following with other business houses, other organizations, they have to be held accountable for whatever they are doing. Now, with enhanced accountability, with improvement in transparency, this promotes the concept of good governance. Now, good governance relates to the practices where the government is working in an idealistic way, taking care of its citizens, taking care of the business houses, taking care of the other organizations, institutions, its own government members, employees. So when all these things are taken care well, when all these things are promoted well, when there is no biasness at all, when everything is done on time without any favorism, then that is known as the process of good governance. And with e-governance coming into picture, that promotes that very good concept of good governance. It also reduces corruption. In a lot of underdeveloped and developing nations, the process of corruption is very bad, where every government organization is charged of some sort of biasness towards the processes, towards the people, towards the technology. So there, once e-governance comes into picture, it makes the process transparent. It makes the person accountable. It makes the government accountable. And that is where the corruption levels decreases. Also, there are few middlemen who are involved in various kinds of government processes. If technology is enabled for all those services, those middlemen can be eliminated. And there comes the direct engagement between government and citizens, or government and other entities. So therefore, it also helps in reducing corruption. If all these things are happening, then it certainly impacts the economic growth. So there are a lot of studies which shares that a good governance model can always have a positive impact on the economic growth. And this, when you have a good economy, when you have a good governance model, when there is no biasness, when there is an increased transparency, good accountability, that automatically increases the trust of the citizens. So when citizens are trusting their government, that means they are trusting them fully for the operation of all the functionality which a ideal government should follow. And with all these things, we indirectly are supporting the sustainable development goals, which are very important for the sustainability and well-being of this world. World Health Organizations and other United Nations forums also supports this fact that if the government is good, if the government is working fine, then that indirectly helps in meeting out the sustainable development goals, which is a prime agenda in this decade. Now, it's not just about the good governance, it's not just about the increasing trust, increasing transparency and accountability, or managing the sustainable development goals, but it is also about the financial significance. It is not that governments are ignoring the fact that they need to move towards the digitization of their infrastructure, digitization of their processes, but they are also acting towards it, whether it's a developing nation or a developed nation. They are all spending huge amount of money on putting the ICT infrastructure in place so that most of their processes, most of their data can be taken to a technology platform, which can directly reach to the various entities like citizens, business houses, other governments, and their employees. So for example, so these are the data sets which are obtained from various papers, reports last year, and some of them have been improved with respect to the current data. Now, US government is spending more than $95 billion. UK is spending more than 3,500 million pound. Australian government spending more than $5 billion. European Union is also spending on a lot of aspects, and a factor multiplied by 3.5, and which adds 1.54 by the economy as a whole. There's also a digital economy program run by countries like Russia and India. Chinese government is also taking their infrastructure to another level, and their provinces around them. So it's not like there's only one country which is concerned about e-governance. It is not like there's just a group of countries which is concerned about e-governance, but it is a fact that all the major nations are working towards the development for their government infrastructure, for their government processes. And this is also validated by the fact that the United Nations e-governance development index, which is being done every 2 years, is including more number of organizations in all those surveys. So they're conducting a survey every 2 years where they assess the country's growth on the e-governance aspect, and they come up with the rankings of the e-governance. Now, with ranking process, it is being shown that there are a lot of good countries which are better performing on the organizational front with respect to e-governance. There are few countries which needs improvement. There are few countries which are yet to work well on the e-governance front. So measurement of the progress of all those countries on the e-governance aspect is basically suggest suggesting us that yes, these countries are doing their bit to promote e-governance in their respective regions. So financially, uh, technology wise, the infrastructure wise, various components that are required for the e-governance setup and implementation, all these things are being taken care by the respective countries and respective governments for a better citizen government interaction. Now, there are few problems that are associated with e-governance, and I would rather you know uh, summarize them as opportunities that are there. Now, with respect to technology, we have challenges related to technological infrastructure which needs to be put in place. Now, this technological infrastructure is not an easy task to be implemented at a massive scale, because when we are talking about e-governance, that means we are talking about a larger region. When we are talking about the technology implementation at the government level, then we are talking about a very large number of nodes that needs to be covered up. Similarly, rising data and pattern finding. So with technology implementation comes the impact of data, and that is what we are addressing today. So we have seen a surge in the data generation, which was not seen in few hundred years, that we have seen in few years recently. So rising data, and to understand what that data means is a big concern. Then security of the data and information is getting a big problem. A lot of attacks are happening on the government infrastructure, on the government websites, on the various kind of e-governance services. So we have to be very careful with respect to security of the data and information. Then we have different process related challenges, which is high cost and time for accessing services. So in case a government decides to have a technological infrastructure in place for its services, then it may not happen that it implements the most efficient and most effective way. It implements the most efficient and effective infrastructure for that service. So the cost and timing may not reduce for accessing that services. So we have to be efficient on the processes that we are choosing with respect to technology also. There can be lack of trust for accessing those services, and there can be a need where we need to assess the development that is happening with respect to the infrastructure in place, whether we are able to get the desired result out of the implementations that we are doing for the government, for the processes, for the citizens. So if that can be measured well, then we can say yes, we are assessing. So that needs to be done quantitatively as well as qualitatively. And from the citizen side, we need to have an efficient citizen engagement. That is a problem. So once the government has identified that there is a need to implement technology infrastructure in place, there's a need to have some sort of good technological insights. We need to have a good data mining application to be developed. We need to have a good interactive a platform being developed. Now all this is being done by government, but citizens are not being engaged properly. Then the whole process gets defeated. It is done for the citizens, it is done for the entities which are there, which are accessing the government services, and if they are not engaged, then the whole process of e-governance is redundant. The whole idea gets defeated. So with respect to citizens, you need to have awareness and educational programs, and we need to have a resource sharing and collaborations amongst the various entities. If that can be done well, then you can say that we are moving towards a better e-governance process. So these are few of the opportunities with respect to e-governance. Now let me come to the data science side. Now, what is the value that we can derive out of data science applications, and how we can actually use them for the betterment of any business, whether it's in the public sector or the private sector? Now, if I broadly classify various kind of processes and steps involved in data science implementation, and if I plot them on a 2D graph with x-axis determining the degree of intelligence required to implement that technique, and on y-axis I implement what is the business value that I'm deriving out of the implementation of that technique, I can say that a lower degree of intelligence and a lower business value is generated through the process of business intelligence. And a higher degree of intelligence and a higher business value is generated with respect to advanced analytical techniques. Now, if the government process does not involve a lot of data generation, a lot of intelligent mining, then we can have a basic reporting system in place, which is only informing about what is happening, which is only informing how often a particular thing is happening, how many times it has happened, where it is happening. So all the whys and whom's and how's and where's, these are all answered in a kind of report style. And if only that is required, then yes, business intelligence is the perfect answer to be implemented as a data science technique with respect to e-governance application. Now, the applications where we need to have some sort of forecastings being done, some sort of predictive analysis being done, we want to predict what will happen, we want to mine what are the kind of associations that are happening with respect to the data sets, with respect to the citizens who are interacting, with respect to the business houses which are interacting with government, then we need to have advanced analytical models in place. And that is where we have different kind of statistical analysis, forecasting, predictive modeling, optimization models comes into picture under concepts like operation research, machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning, neural networks, statistical analysis, and data mining. So these are the few things that comes under the advanced analytical skills. Now, there are a set of prescriptive techniques that are used for various e-governance solutions. It is categorized under probabilistic models, machine learning or data mining models. It can be done under mathematical programming, evolutionary computing with respect to artificial intelligence. It can be done as a simulations. It can be done as logic-based models. So all these models have got their own inherent properties, and all these algorithmic models, all these techniques are primarily based on some sort of mathematical property, which can be derived from algebra, calculus, probability, statistics. So all these core mathematical properties give rise to these kind of algorithms, and all these algorithms are computational in nature, which can be scaled up on a massive scale and can process large amount of data. So I won't go into the detail of these techniques. Similarly, predictive techniques are there. Through probabilistic models, we can always deploy predictive techniques with respect to data mining and machine learning. We can predict few patterns, we can predict few numbers, we can predict few phenomena. And we also have statistical analysis. So again, these are few techniques that are prominently used. I would not go into detail. I would rather switch to the case studies that are used for various e-governance solutions currently, as well as with respect to the research that we proposed and that can be used. So I'll start with the first case, which is related to the crime and networks. So it's an important criteria for the government to maintain law and order in any country, in any region, in any state, in any city. That is a very important objective for the government to fulfill. And citizens have got trust on their government, on their administration, that they would take care of them and they would rather protect them from unlawful activities and from any kind of thefts or any kind of burglaries or any kind of crime that is happening in the society. So Crime and Criminal Network Tracking System, that is CCNTS, is an e-governance project which seeks to use ICT for better provision of citizen-centric services, connecting various thousand police stations across the country and facilitate investigation. So this is a case study that I've taken from a developing nation, which is using the crime data to solve certain cases, to find out patterns in the crime that is happening in their region and trying to predict few things. Now, this crime-related case studies have been used across most of the nations, most of the advanced nations, most of the developed nations, as well as developing nations who are having some sort of data sets in front of them. So various states have decided to use predictive policing techniques, where the police, the administration responsible for maintaining law and order, is having the data and they're trying to predict few outcomes based on that data. So the idea is to build on the already existing infrastructure database on geographical locations and the nature of crimes in locations, and databases of history sheeters and police reports with other alternative data sets. So you have various kind of data available with the crime department, with the police department, in the form of databases at the police stations with respect to the environmental data, including crime seasonal patterns. So you'll see there are certain number of crimes that are happening in a particular season at a particular time at a particular place, particular region. So all these data sets are getting recorded with the police station databases. They also try to see the neighborhood compositions. They are looking at the call data records, the mobile phone data records, the conversation that are happening with respect to the platforms like open platforms, like social media platforms and a few connected networks. So most of the things are getting encrypted, but yet, there are certain applications which are being accessed by the government's crime department and police department regularly. Now, with respect to these kind of data sources, they are trying to predict place and time of the crime, which have got the increased risk of getting crime, predicting potential future offenders. So given the characteristics of a particular person, they are trying to use models and trying to predict whether they are future offenders or not. So this is somewhat, this sounds hypothetical, but with respect to suspected list, police is continuously watching few people who are involved in certain level of crimes. And with respect to data science, they are getting the help in taking those decisions. So we don't say that data science is a foolproof technique, is a foolproof concept. It can answer everything, but it can certainly enhance the decision making. It can certainly add value to the decision making of the policemen who are involved in reducing the crime. It is also, so predictive policing is also helping in creation of profile for past crimes and predicting group of individuals likely to be victim of crime. So it is not just the offenders who are being tracked, it is also the citizens who are being tracked, whether they can be a potential victim for that crime or not. So the both sides are being covered by predictive policing model. So it can have historical data access with respect to type of crime, location and type of crime, cluster of crimes, what is happening, where it is happening, how it is happening. So they all have those nodes information. They all have those kind of processes information, and that is stored in a digital manner, which is helping in detecting all these things. So various kind of analysis can be done on this: hotspot analysis, regression analysis, near repeat methods, law and order analysis, risk assessment, social network theory analysis, social media analysis, and usage of techniques like AI and ML helps in achieving those kind of analysis. And outcome is simple: we can have lesser crime, we can have better citizen trust, and we can have various kind of preventive measures in place which can help in preventing of that crime commitment. So this is how a particular government process is using the data science for achieving its goal. So it's a very good case study that is being followed by many countries. Now, there's another very good case that is using data science is the utility agencies. Now, utility agencies, you must have seen water supply, power supply, gas supply in your homes. And these kind of supplies are being monitored by a device known as smart meter. So that smart meter is basically helping in connecting the citizens or the users with the agency, the utility service provider, and it is helping the agency in managing and monitoring the consumption level data. So I have shown a diagram over here on the right side top of your screens, where I've taken an example of British Gas as a utility service provider, which is getting a data from a smart meter through the homes of the users. There is a smart energy monitor, that monitoring that is being done regularly. Based on that, British Gas Agency is able to produce accurate bills. They can produce smart energy reports, and they can share it with the users who are using that particular utility service. So smart service or smart meters are systems that measure and analyze real-time energy usage in short intervals and then communicate this information remotely to service providers. So this is again a phenomena, a concept used by many developed nations, and it is also being used in many developing nations as well. Now, obviously, these meters have got the ability to collect data and transmit data, monitor their supply, and communicate with other appliances. So it's not just a static device which is there, but it is intelligently using the concept of IoT which is Internet of Things, which gives the connectivity to the other appliances, and it is interacting with the service provider by uh, transmitting the usage data, by transmitting the supply data with respect to the particular utility service. Now it empowers consumers also to understand their energy consumptions and manage their usage more efficiently in real time by collecting granular data about consumption and usage activity. So any citizen who is there, any user who is there in his house, he can monitor that, last month I consumed this much amount of gas, this much amount of power, this much amount of water. So whatever utility he is or she is using, he can monitor that particular consumption and can see whether there is some kind of leakage that is happening, whether there is some kind of inconsistent supply that is happening, whether there are certain patterns that are emerging. So here we can have some sort of dashboarding being done for the user, because he just needs to understand what is happening, where it is happening, how it is happening. So he can just have few metrics being there in the dashboard with respect to business intelligence, and that would do the job. He doesn't require any sort of predictive analysis or usage of AI and ML to be implemented at his end. That can be done at the agency end. So with respect to service providers, smart meters enables analysis of this granular data and in turn reveal the best way for industry to optimize processes, redistribute the services, and innovate further. So agencies can try to analyze what is the consumption pattern in a particular area, what kind of uh, uh, you know frauds are happening, what kind of thefts are happening in their utility services, any leakages are there or not, any kind of drop down in the consumption is happening. If it is happening, then why it is happening, are there faulty meters or not. So if all these things can be analyzed with the help of data collected from smart meter, then yes, we can have good benefits out of it. With respect to efficient demand side management, we can have accurate shaping of the market and industry, we can have the revenues being calculated for the industry, for the region, we can have security of the supply. So whatever supply I have sent as a utility agency, that has reached to the potential customers, potential users, if that is matching whatever I'm sending and whatever is being received, in turn validates the fact that there's no leakages, there's security of the supply, everything is fine, and we can move ahead. So all these things are being done with respect to some prominent techniques like time series based forecasting, machine learning based customer classification, machine learning based area clustering, which are used for segregating the customers based on their usage, based on their non-usage, to find out faults, to find out fraudulent customers, to find out good customers, to find out power consumption analysis, and come up with certain levels of predictions that fine, we have to be prepared for the increased energy demands at this point of time. We have to be prepared for drop down in the utility service consumption. So we are prepared. We as an agency are prepared very well. So therefore, government can effectively manage these utility service providers. So this is also a very good case that is being implemented all around the world. And the third case is with respect to the intelligent transportation system. Now, again, traffic management is one of the challenges that every government is facing. There are a lot of traffic jams. There's a lot of fuel wastage that happens. There's a lot of chaos that takes place because population is rising big time, and the vehicles associated with the population are also rising. So government needs to manage both the public vehicles as well as the private vehicles. And with this, it has come up with certain ideas like intelligent transportation system, where with the help of various communication technologies, it gets connected to the various kind of servers, various kind of machines, various kind of devices with which the traffic police, the administrators, the fuel agencies, the management agencies are collecting the data and providing it to the users to avoid traffic jams, to better manage their fuels, to see which routes are the best for them to travel, to see which are the best public transportation systems that are available. So if all these things can be told to the customers, to the users, to the citizens, then that helps somewhat in managing the traffic. So it is collecting. So as I've shown in the diagram over here on the left bottom of the screen, we have various kind of tracking systems involved in the public and the private vehicles. We have certain electronic ticketing system which is helping us in analyzing what kind of what numbers are traveling, what numbers are executing, what numbers are using this kind of transportation system today at a particular time. And with this, we can have a passenger information system in place with respect to their own dashboard kind of a thing, which is having screen kiosks in their mobile apps, which is helping them in finding out a correct way with respect to the usage of the transportation, with respect to the usage of the reports, roads and routes that they are taking from one source to the another destination node kind of a thing. They can have information related to any kind of jams, any kind of accidents that have happened around the world, uh, with respect to the region in which they are traveling. They can have an idea about the traffic density in a particular region, the lights, the traffic lights, where they are working, where they are not working, the kind of fuel consumption that they are expected to have. So these kind of things basically improves the user experience. It helps both the user as well as the administrator in having a smoothness in the whole transportation system. So if public transportation system and private transportation systems can be managed well, then it avoids having chaos in the city, which is happening in a lot of places where we have a high population density area. And with respect to the data sets that are being collected for this intelligent transportation system, we have various techniques under data science that are used, like time series based. So time series based forecasting is a common technique that is being used by a lot of applications. So it is one of the most important areas that anyone can study with respect to classification, clustering, some techniques under classification clustering, like decision trees, regressions. We have advanced concepts like neural networks. We have data mining techniques like rule mining and associations. We have feature extractions, and we also have deep learning technologies that are being used with respect to the data that is being generated through the transportation network and that is being used to mine patterns. So again, this is an important case study that is being used worldwide by the government. Now, these were the actual use cases that are getting implemented. Now I'll present one or two case studies which are based on the research work that we have conducted. So the first case study that I would like to focus on is with respect to the infrastructure that is being created by government. In a lot of underdeveloped and developing nations, there's a lack of infrastructure to be in place for the government to set up centers to give the access of internet to the citizens, or to have a kind of technology being reachable to the citizens with respect to cost, time, and reachability. So in case the government is a particular nation's government is unable to provide these services to the citizens, or the citizens financial conditions are not very good uh, in order to access the government services through digital mode, then there comes a concept of rural kiosk, or uh, common service centers, or telecenters, or ICT centers, which are being set up in various areas to help the citizens access e-governance services. So in case you don't have any internet at home, any device at home, then you go to these centers, access the service that you require. For example, if you want to file online tax, or you want to apply for some utility card, or you want to apply for some daily need items from the government stores. So you can always go to these centers and apply. Now, the problem that we solved was with respect to data science, we wanted to have these centers at an appropriate location. So if we can have these centers being located at an appropriate location, then it can give the maximum population coverage and minimize the cost and time of travel to come to that ICT location and access that service. If that can happen, then yes, we can have an effective e-governance model in place. So with respect to the infrastructure management, we use various operation research techniques, various ML techniques, various AI techniques to find out the appropriate location of those centers, locate them in a cluster of towns or villages, and come up with an accurate position which gives us the maximum population coverage with minimum cost and travel time. With this, we use advanced clustering techniques and evolutionary algorithms under AI. So this was used by us. We experimented on a data set, and we were able to reduce the cost of travel by 20 to 30% as compared to traditional techniques. So this was one of the major breakthroughs that we achieved, and this was published at an international forum as well. And another problem that we worked upon was with respect to the cybersecurity, which is again an important thing to be considered by various government departments and government organizations, that with respect to increase in cyber attacks, they need to make sure that their systems are intelligent enough to identify any kind of anomaly that is happening within the network. So obviously there are a lot of attacks that are happening. You might be reading about them, you might be experiencing about them, that somebody hacked your account, or somebody is not giving you access to have log in into your own account. So if all these needs to be eliminated, or all these needs to be monitored, then we need to have an efficient intrusion detection system. So again, we used advanced analytical skills like techniques from ML for unsupervised learning and supervised learning, and we use AI techniques like evolutionary algorithms to find out a particular type of attack that happens, and with respect to that data set, we implemented these techniques and were trying to design an efficient intrusion detection system. Now we use features, so we implemented on a real-time data set, but for research purpose, we used Kyoto data set, and which had features like source port, destination port to avoid server attacks. We have source byte and destination bytes for attack, identifying flooding attacks and packets, the data packets that are being sent for SYN attack. So all these things are a bit technical. You can read them, with respect to certain papers that are available. But there were certain benefits that we achieved. We were able to reduce the classification, alarm rate, false alarm rate by 5 to 7%, and we were able to improve the detection rate by 5 to 10%. So correct classifications went higher with respect to these analytical models, and the incorrect classifications went down. So we were able to correctly classify whether a particular attack has happened onto the system or not. So this was the whole idea behind this, solving this particular case. Obviously, this can help in monitoring and managing various kind of cyber attacks that are happening on e-governance systems. So these were all about the various case studies that we have worked on and that are already existing. And there are certain future explorations that can be done in this area with respect to technology. You can work on social media analysis. You can use technologies like blockchain analysis. You can have working on big data analytics, cloud computing, parallel processing, mobile computing, and cybersecurity. So these are the few technological areas that are emerging in the field of e-governance, and you can very well work on them and try to find out solutions to the existing problems. And those who want to work on the people side, they can work on the capacity building, they can work on the awareness and education campaigns, employee trainings. You can work on inclusion of marginalized communities who don't have access to the government services through digital means. You can try to work on closing the gaps between rural and urban areas. You can work on the citizens outreach. While having said that, there are a few challenges that are there. The data availability and the quality and authenticity of that data becomes or remains the biggest challenge. As in private industry, we also have these challenges in government sector as well. So if these can be overcome, yes, you can have an effective e-governance model in place, and you can use various kind of data science techniques to find out solutions to various problems that are existing in with respect to the government citizen interaction. Now, we have a kind of a small research lab that we have set up to take an initiative towards improving e-governance. We have 3 persons who are working as a core team: Professor Mattu from Delhi University, myself from Delhi University, as well as I'm also taking up the consulting projects, and Dr. Paul from DRDO, who's a senior scientist. So we have created this kind of a small lab that's an initiative by us. We are trying to continuously work on various research, academics, and industrial problems related to e-governance. We have the expertise to apply ML and AI solutions to the government data sets and mine them for various patterns. And Our work has been recognized at various national and international forums. So we have also worked with United Nations in conducting assessments at a regional level. So we developed a regional level assessment index for assessing the progress of e-governance at a regional level. So we were given a task by United Nations to help them in collecting the data and analyzing it. We have a very few achievements associated as well. We bagged the Best Poster Award at Young Scientist Conclave at Indian International Science Festival. And with respect to the ministry applauding our work and the government recognizing the initiatives that we are taking, I think this would remain the biggest challenge, that applying data science techniques for the government data sets and for the government setup will remain a very good initiative from a lot of people who are working in this area, and we hope that we can serve to the different nations in solving problems. In case any of you is interested, you can contact us at connect@egovlab.in, and we would be happy to collaborate, to work, or to solve your queries. These are few of the key publications that we had. So we have published books, we have published various book chapters. They're all international and reputed publishers like Springer, Taylor Francis, Routledge, IGI Global, and we have few journal papers and conference papers at ACM, at InterScience, at Springer, and we have presented the work at conferences like IceGov, which is one of the highest level conferences in the area of e-governance. And we were due to give a workshop in IceGov 2020, which was due to happen in March, but due to current prevailing conditions, it has been postponed to September. We would also be conducting workshops in the area of e-governance and usage of data science in other forums in India. So with respect to a current situation, this may not allow us to conduct these sessions physically, but virtually it would be there, and we are getting connected with few researchers and collaborators in European and US region for working on various kind of problems in their region. So I would end this presentation with a quote from Prime Minister Modi, which says that e-governance is easy governance, effective governance is on, and also economic governance, and it paves the way for good governance. And if good governance can happen in the world, then it's an ideal situation where every citizen would be happy and all the administrators would be happy. With this, I end this webinar and open the house for various kinds of Q&A.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Gapta. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. We still have time, several minutes here. If anyone has any questions, you can input to our Q&A session, and Dr. Gapta and will give you the answers here now. Okay, I didn't see any questions here. And I think Dr. Brigata, maybe you can share your email address here. And if anyone has any interest or questions, they can send you an email to ask.
Right. I think they can all contact me on connect@egovlab.in. So that's the ID.
Okay, that's great.
Connect@egovlab.in. So that's a common ID that we all share. So in case one of us is not available, the other person can answer the query.
Okay, that's great. Okay, if there's no question here, and we're going to stop here. And thank you so much, Dr. Gapta. Thank you again for your time, and looking forward to have you here again in the future. And if the audience, if you have any question, and you can send the your question to conference@joinideas.org, and we're going to give you the answer within 24 hours. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, and have a good weekend.
Yeah. Thank you, William, and stay safe, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.